In Scotland, university and college education is in crisis for students and staff. This summer, unions representing teaching staff in higher and further education are leading a marking and assessment boycott in protest at below-inflation derisory pay offers, increased casualisation and precarity. College students looking to get to university might not get the results back in time to do so, and university students looking to graduate might have to do so with unclassified degrees. Perhaps the place where this crisis is having the most effect is the City of Glasgow College, where, in addition to the dispute over pay, lecturers have taken continuous strike action, having been threatened with up to 100 compulsory redundancies. Today, we sat down with students and staff at the City of Glasgow College to find out what's going on.
Lee is a HNC social science student at City of Glasgow College.
I'm Frances Curran and I teach at the City of Glasgow College and I teach politics. Maybe I shouldn't say that.
My name's Dr. David Green and I am a lecturer at City of Glasgow College. I teach social science.
I'm Don McKean and I teach in the supported education department.
Hi, I'm Cher and I am a swap social sciences student at New College, Lanarkshire in Cumbernauld.
Well, from my perspective, I think really the dispute started at the beginning of the academic year last year, or kind of about October time last year, when it became clear that management were embarking on a path of changing the nature of the role of a lecturer in terms of taking away paid tea breaks, changes to the academic calendar, and eventually increasing the workload of all lecturers by about, I would say, 20%. I think was what we sort of calculated the increase in workload would be, and really the planned redundancies, both in terms of the voluntary severance and now the compulsory redundancies, which is about 175 in total. This is kind of like the next step on a sort of programme and plan that Paul Little and the management have for the college and the way in which he sees lecturers doing their job.
I think people are watching Paul Little and wondering how much they can get away with at their colleges, because I know at New College, Lanarkshire, they've just posted 50 voluntary redundancies. Now, that's 50 voluntary at the moment, but if 50 people don't stand up to take that, they become compulsory. And it's clear that further education is heading in a direction where it's business centric, not student focused, and that's our worst nightmare.
I think, and that if you look at these are plans that go way back, and it's not just Paul Little. There's obviously collusion with somebody in the Scottish government, because they've accepted the Cumberford Little report, which Paul Little wrote with Audrey Cumberford from Edinburgh College, and that is all just about micro-credentials and an end to lower value activity. So all of the sort of stuff like we do in supported education, or access courses, all of the things that really are what colleges do best. They're looking to get rid of that, and it's just, I think it's just a grifter's charter. It's just a way to extract money from the sector.
I think about sort of 10, 15 years ago, you could see the agenda being driven through higher education, which at that time was focused upon cuts to departments that weren't bringing in enough grant money, classes that maybe, for example, particularly from my perspective, where I was sort of most affected was in teaching of languages for minority languages, where maybe class sizes were 4, 5, 6 students. Again, activities that were not seen to be of commercial value to the university were first in line to be cut, and you can see that agenda now moving into further education, where classes where maybe students are struggling for a whole variety of reasons, which means completion rates in that course is maybe lower on average, which typically is the access level, entry level courses. They are seen to be not commercially viable and so are first to be cut, but then also have the greatest impact upon the students who need those courses the most, which are the most marginalised working class students.
Learner services are going to affect a lot of students. I mean, in a guidance class, it's not unusual to have 30% of your class who are additional supports needs students. And the learner services department in our college was absolutely fantastic. there was 10 lecturers in there, and it was dead easy to work together, because what would happen is, so we're social sciences and we had a dedicated learner support work lecturer, and she's gone now in the VS because of the way they've been treated, which is an absolute disgrace how they've been treated. And they're all going to go, there's 10 of them, there's 2 left, and they're going to go as well. And so we'd have a relationship, so she would come up and say, such and such a student is struggling with this, can you explain that bit of the assessment or the question better? Or she'd come up and say, this person this is happening, can they get an extension? Or they're feeling like this about the exam. Or we just have a little chat about that particular student. And of course, both of us want them to pass, both of us are invested in this because we love teaching, and students would get through. Going is breaking my heart, by the way. We had a great relationship, and she did lots of things to support students, and we worked together, and it's the same for all my colleagues in the social sciences department. And now it's going to be a private company. We'll never know these people. They'll probably be the end of a phone, or I don't know how they're going to support students. But the thing about a private company is their motivation is profit. They want to make a profit. The point about public education is neither me nor my colleagues nor are interested in any of that. They're just interested in the students. So it's already changed the whole culture of what that's going to look like. And guess who's going to be the worst off? It's going to be the students who need those additional support. It's a disgrace.
I know for a fact if our student support services were a private company out with the college, you wouldn't feel comfortable going to them for help when you need it. And it's having those mechanisms in place for students who don't have an easy ride through college. And the fact that they're taking those away, like the colleges are being run like businesses. You know, I appreciate that, you know, principals have a fiscal responsibility to a degree, but this is an educational institution, it's not a business. This isn't about making profit, it's not about making cuts to areas that affect students, because that then negates the whole point in running the place. But they don't see that. They look at a business plan and they go, student support services doesn't make us money, we're going to cut it. But what do they think the impact that's going to be on student recruitment and therefore on the college finances? And it just makes you think, how do you get yourself to a position of such authority when you have no ability to forecast how your decisions impact people and how they eventually will impact you?
Because student support service, when I did the NC last year, really helped. You know, because I lost my granddad and mental health was just terrible, and I didn't think I was going to finish. But if it wasn't for them getting me counselling and support, I wouldn't have made it through and got here. So they don't realise that student services makes such a difference.
And that's like, and we see it across all colleges. Now College Lanarkshire looked at closing their student nurseries. Now they don't view that as a student service, but it absolutely is a student service. When I started college, I wouldn't have went if they didn't have an on-campus nursery, because I suffered with severe postnatal anxiety. I couldn't leave my daughter somewhere that I wasn't able to go and get her. And they sent us an email saying, we regret to inform you that we're closing the nursery in 2 weeks.
Did they close it?
No. So they've extended it until December. But that was all due to the fact that students kicked up absolute hell about it, because whilst they can go, oh, you know, it's not viable, we need to cut it, but that is where people trust their children to be kept, and that's where the problem with colleges, and not just at New College Lanarkshire, but right across the board, there is nobody on the board who understands what it's like to be a working class student.
No.
They don't have a clue.
I was on the regional board when I came to City of Glasgow College, and when I looked around every board, and I've said this in board meetings, you know, the great and the good, who are public appointments, they are administering lots and lots of public money, 99 million in the case of City of Glasgow. And I remember being in a meeting where the SQA did the presentation, and I was the only person who was teaching. And I could tell by looking at the board that half of them didn't understand what the slides were about in the presentation, and they're taking these decisions about students' lives.
Paul Little isn't just a principal, he's also a CEO, right? So it's all this business talk and all this, but it's public money. And the thing is, we know that they end up wasting huge amounts of money. So, you know, this stuff about efficiency, and we're looking at the bottom line. So for instance, supported education department, put in a grant, got an industrial composter for the college, right? The college during COP26 made a lot of noise about how this industrial composter, you know, where all our food waste was being recycled and all this. One member of staff in our department was trained to use this, was told a month after COP26 that all the sustainability stuff she was involved in with students was on hold. The composter has not worked since December of 2021, and now they're back to paying £4,000 a year to have all their food waste taken away. So if they're really worried about the bottom line, well, you'd at least make sure that was working, right?
But Paul Little sits on a number of different boards. Although he claims to work full-time for City of Glasgow College, he also, as part of his remuneration package, we know gets an allocated amount of study time each year. I don't think I've ever found out what he does with that study time. And you know, as a lecturer, I only get an afternoon a week to do prep for, you know, the 24 hours that I'm supposed to be teaching a week. But we know that he's been to China multiple times. He's been to India multiple times. And this is just in the space of a year, right? This is not over the 10 plus years that he's been. Recently he was in New York at Tartan Week. Been to Kosovo, which I kind of find quite absurd, given that even if you take into account the fact that there is some international travel involved because of the maritime links that this college has, as a landlocked country, I fail to see what could have taken him to Kosovo. Saudi Arabia, we know he's been to all over the world. I don't think it's a continent he's probably not been to except Antarctica, and I'm sure Mr. Little will find an excuse to go there sooner or later.
But it's all PR.
Yeah.
This is all PR. Photographs appear, we get the principal's briefing. We pay 70 grand a year for a PR company.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a disgrace. We've got a PR department. We've got experts in PR who actually teach on our courses. Why not use the talents that are in the college? Why do we have to pay £70 for a private company who's making a profit? And so I think all of these things, we want to open the books.
Yeah.
We know that there's money being spent. How much has been spent on world skills? How much has been spent on the executive chef? By the way, do you know the executive chef?
Tell us about the executive chef.
We protested him getting appointed. Doesn't he lecture? I'm not exactly sure what an executive chef does. But when it got advertised a few years ago, the job was 55,000. It has gone up to 85,000 in that time, an extra 30 grand.
Yeah.
Who took that decision? And we know that the salaries that the management here have got, the 100 grand ones, the 80 grand ones, the 120 grand ones, they're actually more than the union thinks they are, because it's really difficult to find out. Now this is public money.
Yeah.
We should everybody knows how much we get as lecturers, right? It's posted. It's a national rate. We should be able to find out how much our senior management are actually paid, and yet we can't. So what does that tell you?
We're moving further and further away from what a college should be with every year that passes, and it's quite sad to see as a student, because see, by the time my daughter's of the age where she'll go into further education, they'll be unrecognisable. It'll be a screen in an automated building and she'll get taught.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's no, like, college lecturers are the people who literally build the foundations for society, because they make sure that the people going out into society are ready for it. And I don't know about you, certainly after the strike action, right? But see, before all this action started, could you name a single member of management?
Probably not.
Because I couldn't. I don't know who manages my college. I don't know the principal or the deputy principal or the financer or the private photographer or the other people who sit on the board that have absolutely no idea how their decisions affect us. But see, if you came to me in 30 years' time and asked me who my sociology lecturer was, or my politics lecturer, or my history lecturer, I'd be able to tell you their full names.
Yeah.
And I don't think the management realise, like, colleges run from the bottom up. They don't run from the top down. you could cut management tomorrow, we'd be fine.
Yeah, definitely.
We'd be alright. You could put colleges back into the public domain and not have a principal and a board, and you could actually have your lecturers making decisions that impact the colleges, and we'd be alright. We'd be fine with that.
So let's start again. What are colleges for? Right. Why have we got FE colleges? Most young people in the west of Scotland don't go to university, they go to college.
Absolutely.
And colleges are the powerhouse of working class education. And so any cuts to college and college funding is affecting working class people in the communities that surround this building and the other colleges in Cardonald and Clydebank and Easterhouse and Springburn. And I've taught a whole number of them. And that's what I love about my job. I love seeing young people come in, maybe school wasn't very good for them, and mature students, women returning after having, like yourself, having kids, and I'm watching the journey. Right? It's brilliant, and so when you see people graduating, I mean, it's just the most fantastic thing, and then they're off to university, and then they come back and visit you as well. And they're talking about income. Yeah, there is a difficulty with the Scottish Government, but we keep getting, because I was on the board and because we get the stuff, we read all the stuff about the colleges of the future, all these reviews that the Scottish Government are doing. And one thing that's in this, including stuff that Paul Little has put into the Cumberford Little report, is colleges as an anchor in the community. Well, is there a college an anchor in the community? Now that building cost £228 million. Most of it has been borrowed from Deutsche Bank. So every evening, all weekends, it lies empty. We have got hundreds of classrooms. We've got a TV and a radio studio. We have got art spaces. We've got a gym. We've got a basketball thing, a big hall where you can do sports things. You can see that I don't take sports. And you've got community groups who can't find anywhere to meet because community centres have been closed down. So the thing is, why not open up the college? Why not charge not loads of amounts of money for community groups, third sector groups, and make it vibrant? And you know what, all the cafes, we've got a whole number of cafes, the services being cut back and cut back and cut back, they would all be booming. They would have people coming through the doors, and it would feel like that college belongs to us. Now that money that built that college is public money. It's not Paul Little's money, it's not the board's money, it's public money. And we're the public and we should get access to it. And so if you were going to do a model of a college that's bringing in that income, instead of swanning about the world, trying to bring in money from Saudi Arabia, India, China, all these different places, how about Springburn, Easterhouse, Pollock, Carlton, all these areas, we can bring in money from them, and that's the kind of future that we need in that college. But these people are not prepared to listen.
As a group of students, we wrote to Graham Day 16 times. We wrote to him every single day for 2 weeks. We called his office every day for 2 weeks. He has not responded to us once. Really? Right? So we wrote to our MSP and we said Graham Day is completely ignoring students, he's completely ignoring everybody who writes to him. I had a journalist contact him on our behalf and he was ignored, and then received a letter from the Scottish Government saying do not contact Graham Day about education, contact us directly. Now, so I contacted Jamie Hepburn. I said, can you please contact the Minister for Further and Higher Education for me? And he did. And he sent me back a letter from Graham Day that basically said, well, we're not getting involved. Tell me what happens if a single parent claims benefits that they're not entitled to. Right? Now that's government money. What happens? You get fined. You have to pay it all back. You get investigated, you get sanctions for the rest of like the next decade. What happens when CEOs like Paul Little take public money and blow it up the wall? Does that not happen? Because the government don't seem interested in that. Now, we have written to everybody. We've written to all our regional MSPs. We've written. I wrote to the First Minister. I get an email back saying I've been asked to reply on his behalf. Now, like I could go all day about this. The Scottish Government stand there and they say we want to pull people out of poverty. Colleges are the way to do that. I do not understand how Graham Day is still in a job. Look at what's happening in colleges. Look at what's happening in unis. That is literally what he is responsible for. College students can't get results to get into uni. Uni students can't get their results to get out of uni. People can't start, people can't graduate. There's a resultant boycott, a marking boycott, and game days do not.
I think that, just as a sort of final thought, Mr. Little, as any member of staff will tell you, likes to describe us as a team. And at the very least, if you're part of a team, you expect every member of the team to be playing by the same rules, to be working together for the benefit of the team. And whilst I categorically do not accept the fact that there needs to be 100 compulsory redundancies, if the college is in the financial dire straits that it's in, and that's an if, but if it really is in the sort of amount of debt that Mr. Little is in, then a 20% pay cut for someone who's taking home more than £200,000 a year is the very least that someone would do to show a little bit of solidarity and sympathy with members of staff who, and having been in the picket line and spoken to many of my colleagues, many of whom are working part-time hours as delivery drivers and working other jobs simply to try and make ends meet. And I think if Mr. Little did that, I think he would begin to receive just one iota of sympathy from the staff.